Thank you. So yeah, over the last 25 years, I've been working with a group called the Long Now Foundation that includes people like Stuart Brand and computer scientist Danny Hillis and one of our speakers tonight, Kevin Kelly. And I've been working on this idea of building an object that can get people to think in much longer time spans and make them feel responsible for not only the last 10,000 years, but maybe the next 10,000 years. And over the last 25 years, I've been visiting sites around the world that include the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, the various nuclear waste repositories like Yucca Mountain, the one in Oncalo, a 100,000-year nuclear waste repository, the Mormon genealogical vaults. So all of these sites trying to learn a little bit about the ways that things have been designed, and also monuments where things have lasted over these timescales. And most recently, I went on this amazing trip to Japan to visit some of the oldest companies and institutions in the world. And one of them was this hotel, one of the oldest businesses in the world, started in 781 AD. And we had this amazing opportunity to interview the 84-year-old man who's been managing it for the last several decades. And he told stories not only about how they handled the last pandemic that we just went through, the one 100 years ago, the one 500 years ago, the wars, the fires, all of these things. And it reminded me of kind of why we started the Long Now Foundation and why we had this kind of where we are in the civilizational conversation of, if we look at the last 10,000 years where agriculture started and then cities, and we think about that, well, are we at the end of a 10,000-year story, or are we at least in the middle of a 20,000-year story? And if we think about ourselves in the middle of that story, how would we act differently? And this brings us back to this icon around long-term thinking that I've been working on with Danny Hillis, the 10,000-year clock. And I'll just dive into one of the design problems that we worked on. So it's represented by this shape that you see in the sky if you take a picture of the sun through the course of the year at high noon. And the clock that we're designing can synchronize itself to the sun with thermal energy at high noon. The problem is this shape shows that during the course of that year, you get this plus or minus 15-minute difference. So if you're trying to coordinate absolute time to solar time, it's off. That's easy to make a correction for in a one-year clock. But if you're making a 10,000-year clock, you also have to account for the 26,000-year precession of the Earth's axis. You also have to account for the fact that the Earth is slowing its rotational rate by a second a century, in some cases a little bit more or less based on climate change, where the polar ice goes to one place. But all of that has to come together in this single object that can account for solar time to absolute time for 10,000 years. So that's one of the kind of mechanical problems that we solve in the clock. But the real thing is we're trying to make something that's monument scale that people can visit and they can really kind of change the way they think about it. It's mythic, people will tell stories about it. So for the last 15 years, we've been excavating a site in West Texas using some old technologies, some new technologies like a diamond chainsaw that uses robotics to cut stairs through the solid rock for 2 years over hundreds of feet, using materials like high-grade stainless steel, silicon bronze. These are the bells for the clock that we worked, one of our board members, Brian Eno, and Danny Hillis built an algorithm that can ring those bells in a different sequence each day for 10,000 years. Now the real question becomes, how do you take a monument like this, and how does that change society? And this is where really kind of the rubber meets the road of an experience that you go to, you come back from, and it really changes you. And this experience that I had going to this hotel in Japan really changed me, where in talking to the person who was running it, he was the 46th generation owner. And for the very first time, he was handing it off to his daughter that you see here on the left, or his granddaughter, as the 47th generation, the first woman to ever run this business. And he said, it's time for a change. And that was the part where I was realizing that It is time for a change in the way that we attack problems that need to be attacked over very long times, like climate, hunger, education, whatever it is. Thank you very much.
Hey there, thanks for watching. I'm Brady.
And I'm Firein, and we're the people behind Ignite Talks HQ.
The speaker you just watched was in a race against time.
Every Ignite Talk is 20 slides, and the slides change every 15 seconds, whether you're ready or not, so you gotta keep up.
It's out of control. Could you do this?
We think so. Follow us in the usual places to learn more about how you could give a talk.
And don't forget to subscribe for more speedy talks.
Thank you.